Hi, Eli. How are you?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here.
So happy to have you here to share more with us about the Community Grocer. So, tell us what first sparked the idea for the Community Grocer and what personal experiences influenced your commitment to food access in Philadelphia.
Yeah, our work really began even before the pandemic, understanding communities as the experts that they are. And it first started through a lens of environmental justice, where my co founder, Alex, and we actually grew up 6 blocks from each other in Washington, D.C., but never met until we were here in Philadelphia at Penn for undergrad. And he was a senior who had to write a thesis in 2019 when the oil refinery exploded in South Philadelphia. And in the absence of air, ground, and water quality data, he was given a small budget just to talk with neighbors and to learn about points of significance and really let our neighbors be the experts in the systems of their lives and take their expertise to those higher levels. And that groundwork of understanding of really flipping academia is where our work first began. And he graduated and continued to just support through after school Zoom programs, sports leagues, park cleanups, you name it. And I arrived in the neighborhood in South Philly to do voter registration work. I was a political science major, and he put this call to action out. And I was a junior. It was the height of the pandemic. I was doing online school. And like Alex, my co-founder, I showed up one day and never left. And from there, we continued doing community work and support, earning trust, being there every single day. When the government started passing out these farm-to-family food boxes that were sent on the street corner every Monday, and we get 800 boxes during the height of the pandemic. And we didn't have a budget. We didn't have any support really, but just these boxes arriving. And these were excess ingredients that didn't add up to recipes. So think a sack of potatoes, a sack of onions, raw chicken, really sweaty milk, and all the time in the world to start thinking and discussing food. And it was whether it was our seniors who couldn't lift the boxes because they were 25 pounds, or even our working mothers, that these ingredient boxes didn't add up to recipes. You still had to go to the grocery store to buy olive oil, to buy salt, to complete that. And that's even if you have the time or the knowledge to deal with those ingredients, that it really got us thinking through food. And in the neighborhood we're in, as well as most of Philadelphia, there's no grocery store within walking distance. So the nearest grocery store to even complete that recipe is 2 buses away, and the buses aren't even running during the pandemic. And even in the reality of the 8 hours a day we're spending on the corner, we're like, there's no food around here. And how is this possible? And began to understand the systems at play, understanding about 1 of every 5 Philadelphians is food insecure. That number is growing by the day. Across the country, we have 47 million Americans who are food insecure, despite 40% of food in this country being wasted. And it was all in all of that absurdity, we began to think of food for the first time in our community work. And really what got us to think of that next level was our teenage volunteers who were on the corner with us, arriving every single morning for breakfast with Skittles and an Arizona tea, using mom's SNAP card or food stamps. And the only infrastructure in our low-income communities, rural and urban, is the corner store or the convenience store. And in Philadelphia alone, we have 3,000 corner stores that sell chips and soda and ultra-processed food at nearly a 10-to-1 ratio to anything healthy, and are accepting SNAP benefits or food stamps, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And whether it was in the sports leagues that we're running and our kids are cramping up, going up for layups, or cramping up while they're trying to catch a touchdown, it was in that absurdity of trying to understand how is it that we have a corner store on every single block, but we don't have any access to fresh, nutritious ingredients. And in the failure or in the absence of how those boxes could work for our neighbors, what was that dream store coming out of the pandemic that would allow our neighbors to have the nutritional outcomes they wished and also that food experience we all wanted? And so on the corner, we just asked that, to our teenagers, to our moms, to our grandparents, what is your dream? Like, where are these boxes not meeting you? How's the corner store the only place you can get food? And what do you think about that? And it was our seniors who said, look, these food boxes are too heavy for me to lift, but if you were giving out a hot meal, I would take it in a heartbeat. And it was our mothers and our teens saying, really, I wish, the corner store is all we have, but I wish I could use my benefits for a hot, healthy meal within my community. But for some reason over the last 40 years, and we can dive more into that, we haven't been able to have that kind of infrastructure in our communities. But I wish I could have a hot, healthy meal with my benefits, but I cannot. And that's really what sparked our vision and our idea for the community grocer, which was, how in the hell is it possible we can have Skittles for breakfast but not scrambled eggs? And in that absurdity of trying to understand the federal language around that, around the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, is where I pulled up on the corner the Farm Bill, all 3,000 pages of it. And it was, of those 3,000 pages, SNAP is about half of the budget, about $100 billion. And in it, really just 4 pages and really just 4 paragraphs and 4 sentences that explain how that whole policy works. And it says, you cannot use your benefits for anything hot or prepared with the intention of on-premise consumption. And I kept rereading those words. And I was like, that is weak language. How is it that we can get a Hot Pocket, which has been baked, frozen, and cured, and that's eligible, but not a rotisserie chicken using our benefits? And understanding that our low-income neighbors have more time constraints, less knowledge per se, or even less working kitchens, that there's so many barriers to just grocery access. And again, the grocery store isn't there. How do we give them that store of their dreams? And so on the corner was looking through this policy and reading that language and getting really obsessed over it. And we went on the USDA website and it says, you buy, we fry is illegal. Meaning if I were to sell you a raw crab leg, for example, and after the point of sale using SNAP, cooked it for you, that wouldn't be eligible for SNAP. And it happens all across the country, but very quickly, someone will find out, that place will lose their SNAP license and the store will likely go under.
What is the reasoning behind not allowing that?
Yeah, so this is a policy really that was made in the 60s, on the war on poverty, Lyndon B. Johnson. And the intention, of course, was we want to support low-income neighbors who have so many barriers in life. And we don't want to make the decision of paying for groceries or paying for your medical bills or paying for rent or paying for your food. And the idea was you need to go spend it at the grocery store. We don't want you going to McDonald's. We don't want you to pay for labor. We want to ensure that you're just purchasing ingredients, which at the time was a very fair policy. And it was a literal stamp. We get the word food stamps. It was a book of stamps, and you would take it to the grocery store. They'd collect the stamp, and at the end of the month, they'd go to the government office and get cash for it. Of course, we now have an electronic card. It's a lot easier. Still a lot of issues with it, a lot of skimming, a lot of scamming on it. But that was the intention. But what's happened really since then is that we've had redlining and so many broken policies in our food system that has allowed the corner store and chips and soda and ultra-processed foods to be in all of our communities, but fresh, nutritious ingredients are not. And it's been everything from housing and zoning policy to really broken unit economics and a broken food system where somehow it is cheaper to get chips in your neighborhood than farm fresh ingredients from a local farmer. And so all of these reasons has plagued our low-income communities, both rural and urban, with an ultra-processed amount of chips and soda, which somehow, with the idea that this policy was meant for groceries and for fresh food, has become broken to a point where, the wrong interests have allowed consumer packaged goods to take over that space. And a large portion of that is realistically is the unit economics, that we've somehow made it possible for chips and soda to be more expensive in our low-income neighborhoods, so that even when our neighbors do make it to the grocery store, which is far away, they have to take 2 buses, maybe get there once a month at most, that you see those same chips and soda you see in your neighborhood every day, and in that moment where you can maybe buy fresh produce or buy organic foods, that it's actually way cheaper than you see every day at the grocery store, so you go, there's a discount. It's like, how did we get to this point in our food system where we don't have fresh ingredients so that our consumer choice over the last 40 years has changed? But in that understanding, it was our neighbors telling us, no, this is not what we want. We wish we had access to nutritious ingredients that could be prepared using our benefits. And that policy, which was meant for groceries, instead is being used for chips. But we don't want that. But somehow, and there's no unit economics to make this possible, we don't have these options in our neighborhood. And that's what got us really obsessed with those words. And together on the corner, we said, all right, let's build the store of our dreams. And that store was, how can we use our benefits to get a hot, healthy meal that meets our neighbors in their routines, whether it's our seniors with arthritis, our 9-year-olds who don't know how to work an oven, or even our working mothers who work 3 jobs. And look, I only work 1 job, sometimes 2, maybe a few more doing this work. But I'm exhausted at the end of the day trying to cook a meal. And it's like, how can we reduce those barriers to get healthy ingredients into the mouths of our communities? And that's where our vision was born. And we've been on a journey really 5 years ever since, from the corner during the height of the pandemic, to make that vision a reality.
Unbelievable. I really appreciate all of this knowledge and backstory of how it grew to this idea, because I think that many people don't understand, myself included. I didn't understand until I was introduced to your work that this is what's happening, right? And that the policy is the reason why. And it's awful. It's just our community deserves better. But it takes this innovative type of thinking to make real change. So tell us about what the idea is for the community grocer, and why is this an innovative approach?
Yeah, so it was really there on the corner. Let's build the store of our dreams. And in the absurdity of SNAP policy, trying to understand how can we have Skittles for breakfast but not scrambled eggs, that we read through every word. And it was you buy, we fry illegal, and understanding how that works and where that lives. And Alex, my co-founder, had a very simple sentence as we're just standing on the corner, and those 8 hours a day we're trying to give out those boxes. And it was, how about you buy, they fry? What if we were to separate premises? Going back to those words in the Farm Bill, you cannot use your benefits for anything hot or prepared with the intention of on-premise consumption. And he said that very casually, and it just sparked a light immediately. And so very boldly, from the street corner on my phone, I cold emailed the Harvard Food Law Policy Clinic, and I said, I'm here. We have these questions about SNAP. What about you buy, they fry? Like, what if you were to separate premises? And Harvard got back to me and said, give us the summer. We're going to do some research, and we'll get you a memo. And about 2 months later, they came back with this really interesting piece of legal research that said, go for it. Trying to understand the limitations of the policy, that no one has thought of it in that way. If it says you can't use your benefits for anything hot or prepared on premises, what if you were to separate premises? And they looked at everything from like a Sam's Club in Delaware and how they had a liquor store within the Sam's Club, but there was a demising door. Or even in Philly, you go to Reading Terminal and you have under one roof 20 different vendors. Some accept SNAP, some are doing cheesesteaks, some are doing cakes, but they're all different premises under one roof. So what is that delineation? And Harvard came back and said, just to be safe, one, you should go for it. Give it a try. We've never seen anyone ask this question before. But two, put up a wall, separate the units, create different electricals, different HVAC, and have the front half, a grocer that sells an all-day menu of SNAP-eligible ingredients coming from farms. But unlike those boxes on the corner, they're freshly chopped, pre-sorted, pre-marinated. So whether you're a young person or you're a senior with arthritis, it's everything you need to have a full meal ready to go, except for the cooking point. And to have that in an individual portion too, because shopping for one is so difficult. Think about, if you want to make one recipe, you need to buy $60 worth of ingredients. And for our low-income neighbors who SNAP is only about $5.25 a day, if at the end of the month you only have $10 left, do you want to buy a dozen eggs, or would you rather have a breakfast sandwich and a smoothie? And it was, let's create a grocer that sells an all-day menu of farm fresh ingredients, but also ingredient kits that are chopped, sorted, and marinated in that individual size and family portion, almost like a HelloFresh grocery store, best way to describe it. And then in Unit B, separated by a wall, is a workforce development training kitchen where those ingredients you just purchased, you walk outside after the point of sale, you SNAP, credit card, cash, any form of payment that you really want. Walk outside after you got it time-stamped and sealed. And if you want, you're off premises, you can go cook that at home, and your receipt is your recipe. But knowing that so many of our neighbors have barriers to that pathway towards preparation, you go right back into Unit B, you hand them the ingredients you just purchased, yours will go to a future batch, and then you'll be scooped, like Chipotle-Style, the equivalent hot and ready version. So within 4 minutes, you're walking with a hot, healthy, delicious meal that you use your SNAP benefits to pay for. And that was the initial baseline model of the community grocer. And from there, we took that idea and we took it to Penn, where we won the 2022 Penn President's Sustainability Prize, which was our first $100,000, which at this point is like 1.5 ovens. and a couple fridges, but it was more so the cloud of the university to begin bringing this vision to life. And from there, we started knocking on boardroom doors and cold emails. I LinkedIn messaged the head of M&T Bank's charitable foundation, Dominique Goss, on her first week on the job. And she, grew up on Snap and understood the realities of the policy and what that meant in the daily life of our neighbors. And she goes, if I had this growing up, this would have been a game changer. And they came in with their largest ever first-time contribution of $300,000, which allowed us to begin thinking of real estate for the first time. And at the same time, getting connected to Ballard Spahr, who came on as our pro bono lawyers for everything from incorporation documents to real estate law, you name it. At this point, we've run up like $1 million of pro bono support to, me after graduating college early to start working on this full time. I was on a trip on a plane post-graduation to celebrate and talking to a judge from Montgomery County. And he goes, well, what do you need support in? I'm like, well, we need an architect to actually bring this theoretical idea of a building to life. And sure enough, was going on a cycling trip with Richard Stokes of Stokes Architecture and Design, who did Borromini, Park, La Colombe, you name it. And they came on as our pro bono architects. So day by day, building the team, building the coalition to build the store of our dreams in compliance with federal policy. And so that innovation was really the baseline of our work, but it's really grown since then because like everything I was saying earlier, the unit economics to make persistent nutrition access work has not existed in our low-income communities, rural or urban, anywhere in this country for 40 years. And so this model was cool. It was approved by the Harvard Food Law Policy Clinic. We're all of a sudden fundraising some pretty good money, but quickly understanding real estate constraints and that to put the investment into a building, into a community like this, that we were going to need a construction loan. And that philanthropy was not going to get us there fast enough to build the store of our dreams. And so it was there where M&T Bank were like, hey, can you give us a construction loan? And they go, we love you guys. We love all the support you're getting, but startup, nonprofit in this kind of community, that's not even a beginning conversation for a commercial loan. But go to some CDFIs in town, which are community development financial institutions, which are banks with a mission, and they get federal subsidies to take on risk like this. And they look at us and they go, we love all these good things you're doing. We love that the model is really innovative and cool. We see the need. Food insecurity is on the rise, and that, food pantries and food banks haven't moved the needle in hunger because it's not persistent. It's inconsistent. It doesn't meet our neighbors in their daily routines. But even then, they're like, there's just no way. There's two pieces that don't work. We can't understand it, which is, one, how are you ever going to do grocer margins, which are extremely thin, with a kitchen staff, which is very fair of a question. And two, we don't believe in the purchasing power of your neighbors. And in this journey, we ended up actually moving from South Philly to Southwest Philly on 60th Street. And we found a building that was 100 years old, completely empty when we found it, and just calling our name. It was zoned correctly. The address was my birthday, all these different things. And taking that actual first step of purchasing the building without approval of a construction loan, but using every dollar we had to make the promise to our neighbors after we spent about 6 months just every day on the corner. Do you want to build this collective dream together? That we decided to buy the building in cash, put it all in on one building and saying, we're going to be here. We're going to figure this out together. And the community we're in is 3 blocks away from the move bombing. Has had a lot of violent history with institutions, with Penn, where we came from. But it was the trust of our neighbors who said, we're ready to build this together. Let's do it. And so we bought the building in cash, not having a construction loan ready, but just taking that leap of faith. And from there, we had a groundbreaking ceremony. I'm doing air quotes for those who can't see. and I say that because we didn't have money to break ground. But it was our promise to our neighbors we're going to be here. And the Inquirer came out and interviewed our neighbors for 3 hours. And what the story we were sharing was, we are building the store of our dreams in full compliance of this federal policy that has had all these negative externalities. And in the community we're in, 1 of every 2 of our neighbors has type 2 diabetes. Over 28% are on disability, 33% are on SNAP. That, the real diet-related diseases of this policy, of poverty, and of the unit economics that have made chips and soda available, but not fresh ingredients, are apparent. So the Inquirer came out and they interviewed our neighbors. And the story does read, community comes together to build the store of their dreams. But the title was Penn Grads Find Snap Hack, which was not what we were going for. But it went viral. It had 16 million views overnight and just blew up. And so at the same time of this article going viral, we're hearing kind of these questions from the loan committee as we're trying to figure this out. And we got called down to DC by the head of the FNS retail policy chief, the head of the USDA who oversees SNAP for the country. And it was an error message on our website because our website wasn't even working at this point of, gentlemen, we need to talk. And what was supposed to be a 30-minute meeting of you can't do hot food for food stamps instead became an hour and a half of, I'm a 34-year bureaucrat whose my one job is to be given this policy that's been around since the 60s and not have to testify in front of Congress. And an hour and a half later, she goes, this is fully compliant. How can I help? And it was that gave us the full confidence because we were operating on a bit of a yellowish green light.
Yeah.
Where we kind of were like, we might end up at court one day, but we're confident in the legal research we've done to get here. And so now we have quarterly meetings, and when our building is live, which will be soon enough, is going to help us with our SNAP application. But at the same time, we get called down to the Departments of Agriculture on the GOP and on the Dem side, and everyone is in full support. It's, you guys are building a retailer that is improving health outcomes, that is supporting local farmers who can't get behind that, and is a market-based solution that to problems the government doesn't really want to deal with. And so we're going and we meet with Congressman Evans, who's our congressman here in Philadelphia. He championed fresh food financing when he was a state rep here in PA, which is now a federal program. And he goes, gentlemen, like, what do you need help with? And we're like, well, the loan committees, they don't see it. And we can't figure out how to do grocer margins with the kitchen staff. And he goes, that's workforce development. You have so many young people graduating high school or returning citizens who need that first career step opportunity, and state and federal and city and philanthropy dollars can offset your labor costs so that while they're serving their community by serving delicious, nutritious meals, they're also being served in their own way. And we go, okay, we'll do that. And we hired our workforce director, Chef Joy, who built a 12-month apprenticeship program, which is now certified all the way to the federal level at the Department of Labor and as well in the city level, where we can get subsidies for workforce training. So it's a no barrier to entry training program that offset the cost of our labor. And it was there we're like, okay, loan committees, like, look, 50% of our labor costs disappeared. So the whole 50% of labor on the kitchen side, which is separate premise, separate organization, no longer on our books. Give us a loan. And they're like, we still don't believe in the purchasing power of your neighbors. And we go, there's 20,000 neighbors within a walking distance. We're in a really urban, dense neighborhood that don't have a single retailer of nutrition access. This is insane. If you're in any other community and you see those unit economics and those kind of numbers and that population for one store, you would get a loan. But they say, we don't believe in the purchasing power of SNAP. We don't believe in the purchasing power of your neighbors. And we don't really believe your neighbors want healthy food, which was crazy. Because our neighbors every day are just saying, I wish I could get a hot, healthy meal within my community, but I can't. And so we said, okay, we hear you though. We'll go back to what we're best at doing, which was listening to our neighbors. And it was Mr. Gary the whole time. He's a senior on our block, down the block. I give him eggs every Friday, who lost his leg due to diabetes. And he's a senior with a home care provider covered through Medicaid because he's on disability. And since the day we met him, he was getting 28 TV tray dinners delivered to his door, paid for by his home care company, reimbursed by Medicaid, all the way up to CMS in DC. And since the day we met him, we watched as he opened this box that arrived from a factory in Iowa, sat on his doorstep for 3 hours in the sun, and then would live in his fridge theoretically for 2 weeks. We'd watch as he would open the box and feed it to the birds and cats. And even the birds and cats aren't even eating this food because it's not food. Think about how much shipping it had to survive to get to his doorstep. So that is ultra processed and far away from the food systems we want in our lives. But we go, Mr. Gary, who's paying for that food? Because that is food everywhere in our community. Someone's got to be paying for it. And it was very quickly just securing some home care contracts of guaranteed 2 meals a day out of our store instead of a factory in Iowa. In our store where it's supporting local farmers, creating local jobs, that contract of guaranteed meal deliveries from the home care companies got us the construction loan. And so that
I have like nonstop, I don't mean to interrupt you, but like
Go ahead.
nonstop goosebumps, everything that you've said.
It gets
Like,
crazier
every
too.
aspect of this building on top, it's just like amazing. Okay, keep going.
And so it was that home care company piece that really dove us into the food as medicine world, which is now kind of one of the main topics of MAHA, Making America Healthy Again, is food is medicine. And we've gotten to a point where 1 of every 2 of our neighbors have type 2 diabetes. 74% of young people in this country cannot serve in the military because they are too unhealthy to do so. So this is a urgent issue. I mean, heart disease is one of the number 1 killers in America, and it is fully preventable. And so that dove us into the food as medicine space, where we actually were connected to some researchers from Penn Medicine, a Penn student who's a sophomore doing microbiome work with a microscope, reached out, cold email, and was like, hey, heard about you guys through the Inquirer. I see the work you're doing. I would love to see how the work I do, which was gut to brain connection, actually works in the community. And we go, well, sure, come on. And do some research on those waivers that allow for those senior meals to get delivered and come back to us with some of those takeaways. And within a week, he goes, I think you need to meet my boss, who's the head of Penn Medicine's Nutrition Sciences and Applied Medicine Department. And that was Dr. Gary Wu. And within a month, we really flipped academia on its head once again and said to our neighbors, what do you want to know about your diet, your health, your grocery habits, and what would you like to learn about your community as a baseline? And our community advisory board came together. The youngest member, he's 12 years old. His name's Doobie. Our oldest member is 89, with a list of questions for the doctors of what they want to know. And those doctors then took it to applied medicine and all these surveys and studies they've done and correlated those questions to real medical questions that exist already, so we can do some cross-related research. And that created the CHANGE study, which is the Community Health, Access to Nutrition, and Grocery Experience study, which was really pretty much a dietary recall, what you ate yesterday, and then a follow-up 2 weeks later. Where do you go shopping on a daily basis, to really understand the baseline health outcomes of our neighbors, so that when our store does open, we can prove in the long term how we reduce healthcare costs, improve health outcomes, and also all these other amazing wraparound services through the daily rituals of food. And that's what positioned us now, not to just be this first of its kind retailer where you can walk away with a hot meal with your food stamps, and not just a workforce development provider creating opportunities for young people and returning citizens, but also America's first brick and mortar retail food pharmacy, where you can eventually work with your insurers and your providers to get stipends, to get reimbursements on food. So if you have a diet-related disease, you can actually fulfill that downstairs in a retailer, or if you're leaving the hospital to get a 6-month prescription. But the beauty of it is that it's not a prescription that disappears. So maybe you only get the prescription for 6 months, but because we're a retailer, after 6 months, that store still exists. So you don't have to go back to chips and soda. And so that's really where we're positioning ourselves now, is not just a retailer, not just a workforce development provider, but also a retail food pharmacy. So we can really see how food is medicine. And the beautiful thing about that study is that we really created it with our neighbors. We were able to distribute $10,000 back into our community doing that research. And over 90% of participants anonymously donated their health records, which is unheard of in community-based research. But that allows us to see in a year and 2 after we're open how we're actually increasing and improving health outcomes, knowing that if we avoid 1 ER visit for a diet-related disease on the block, that's like $5,000 a night. Let's say you spend 3 nights in the hospital for a preventable diet-related disease, that could feed the whole block for a month. And that's what we're trying to prove here, is how can we prove that food is medicine and use those dollars saved and go to the insurers and say, you should actually be paying for food for certain diet-related diseases, so that our entire population, our entire neighborhood can access healthy, nutritious meals. And for us, that's proving the unit economics to bring back nutrition into all of our communities. And that's been the last 5 years, and we're really close to opening and making that vision a reality.
Gosh, I don't even know where to begin and what my next question is going to be, because I'm still processing the amazingness of everything that you just said. Like, I literally had goosebumps the whole time. Just the fact that you guys have just been continuing to chip away at how can we make, not, it really was a a pathway to how can we just make this happen, right? But all the things you had to get through to get there opened you up to all these other concepts and opportunities and the ability to now make this so much bigger than you even ever intended for it to be in terms of its impact on the community. It's just unbelievable. So tell us where you're at right now in the process of you have the building, you're under construction. What does it look like now?
Yeah, we are. If you've ever done construction in Philly, you'll feel my pain here. We're on month 12 of a 8-month construction project, but we're really getting close. So we're fully financed. Our team has grown. It's me and Alex. We have an institutional relations manager, Sophie, our workforce director, Chef Joy Parham, our culinary director, Chef Aziza Young. And we are at a really exciting point where this week we're finishing our plumbing. Shortly thereafter, we get to put in our drywall and our finishes and our flooring. And our goal is to soft launch and open our doors right after the new year for our neighbors to slowly build this. So in the meantime, we're continuing to serve. We're on the Philadelphia Food and Nutrition Security Task Force. We sit on a lot of national alliances, but it's continuing to grow the team. We're really excited right now. We're launching this literally today. We're going to be doing outreach for our workforce development program. So we're going to have 24 apprentice slots, which are paid on-the-job learning experiences, plus hiring our 6 managers coming up who will actually run the store from the community. And so we're beginning that outreach right now. So if you're seeing this and you're a candidate who knows how to run a kitchen, or you're someone who's looking for that first step in your career, and you're in Southwest Philly, reach out to us right now. But we're slowly bringing on the team to actually run the store. We're continuing to fundraise so that we can really offset the cost of, we're using regenerative organic farmers. So it's really the best local food that you'll see really anywhere in the city. In my opinion, maybe the whole country, but it's going to be at the lowest prices possible. So we're always looking to offset those costs and fundraising, but we're really close. We'll be open after the new year. I'm going to not put a date on it just because construction's been a headache. But we're getting there. And I think, as you said, this journey has been a hurdle every single day. But it's just taking each day and each step in faith. And it was with our neighbors that promised we're going to build the store of our dreams. And not knowing, the federal policies we'd have to jump through, not knowing the, healthcare system we would have to navigate, not understanding the workforce programs we'd have to build. All of that to make the unit economics work on persistent nutrition access. But I'll give you one little story of how we know we're on the right path. And it's as we build over 5 years. It's been slow each day in faith. But on our last day before the first day of construction, we did a walkthrough with our architects, with our contractors, with a few of our neighbors, with our culinary director. And our contractor, at this point, we had already had 1,000 people walk through the building, from tours, which we host every Friday, to neighbors just popping their heads in. And up in the old knob and tube wiring, and the whole building was under violation when we bought it. We had to rip everything out, dig 3,000 cubic feet of dirt, all this crazy stuff. That up in the wall, wedged in there, he goes, "What is that?" And it was a book, and he's a big guy, Aaron, our contractor, and he jumps up on the ladder and pulls it out of the wall, and he drops it into my co-founder's hands. And it opens up, and it's a Bible. And me and my co-founder are both 2 Jews from DC. So, not the most attuned, but it was open to Jeremiah 29:11. And for anyone who knows the Bible, it says, "I, the Lord, have plans for you, plans to prosper you, plans to give you hope and a future." I probably butchered that a little bit.
No, I know that line. Yeah.
And it literally opened up into his hands on that page. So now if you come for a tour, we still have that Bible sitting right at that front table. We'll probably put it somewhere, in the store when we're open. But knowing that we're going in each day with faith, and we're bringing that promise to our neighbors. And each day has been a new lesson, and it's been a pain. It's been difficult. We've had to overcome everything, but it was really, we've had the question, why not go change the federal policy? And of course I kind of laugh. I go, change federal policy in this landscape? No. Even though maybe in the amount of time it's taken to open this first store, maybe we could have done that. But it was really, how can we serve our neighbors on the block with the dream that they wish they had coming out of the pandemic? And we're really close, just a few months away from bringing that vision to reality. And we've had 40 of the 50 states reach out asking, can you do this where we're at? And I go, hold on. We haven't served a platter yet.
Let us finish
Let
this
us
one
figure
first.
this out first. But we will. And the goal is really within 6 to 9 months from the release of this interview, we'll have the unit economics down, we'll have the playbook down, we'll have the menu, and we'll have the vision to share this with every community that needs one, knowing that food insecurity is on the rise across this country. Persistent nutrition access is not guaranteed in most of our low-income communities. And our farmers are really struggling as well. And if we can create pathways for our farmers to have consistent purchasing in our low-income communities, well, they actually are able to support this infrastructure, improve health outcomes. We can really build resilient systems from soil to supper by integrating agriculture with workforce, with food procurement, with the healthcare system. That all of that, which is going right now into Southwest Philly on 60th Street, can be a playbook for the entire country.
Absolutely. And that is so exciting to think that. It's also just beautiful that this stemmed from your deep commitment to the community where you started and where this first, store is going to be, that can spring into something that ripples throughout the entire nation is amazing. It's just, again, I think amazing. I'm going to say amazing probably 72 more times in this interview because I am just overwhelmed with how the potential that's here, right? Like you can see how this could be so, completely groundbreaking and shift things for so many people across the country who are struggling right now. And that was going to be one of my next questions, is that food insecurity is tied to broader systems of poverty and inequality.
Totally.
So how does your work fit into addressing those root causes?
100%. And I think, food is the catch, right? Everyone eats food every single day, whether it's chips and soda or a sous vide, right? It is part of our daily rituals of life. And if we can bring intention into that and bring in resources, we can address those other root causes, which is poverty, for sure, which is, systemic zoning policies that have allowed this to happen, broken, federal policies. And for us, the workforce development piece is really important. It's creating careers for young people, and that creates really local economic engines built through one retailer, where if we're creating careers, that's creating economic prosperity for the whole community, which would help with food insecurity. But a big piece that has really grown in these recent months is, with the one big beautiful bill and all the burden on Medicaid and Medicaid cuts and SNAP cuts. But I really fear for the burden of paperwork on our neighbors on Medicaid, where if you don't know to fill out the right forms, you could wake up one day in 2026 without health care. And that's really scary. And so for us, we have this whole upstairs community space. It's a 30-person classroom session, a one-on-one private meeting space to meet with a navigator, 2 telehealth phone booths, and additional little conference room as well. And that in a place where people will come, and a really interesting part of the change study, the research we did with Penn Medicine, was that our neighbors are going to the corner store almost every single day. So that is a part of the daily rituals of life because it's really the only place for food you can go. And in the power of us being this new retailer with the most delicious food, really starting with delicious food that's also healthy. That's really the pitch we're saying to our neighbors. That's within your budget, that you can come and there'll be a place upstairs for resources where you can meet with a navigator to do your paperwork for Medicaid, or you can attend a class on financial literacy, or you can find a job opportunity with us. And so that upstairs space is really a big place to bring those wraparound services for an entire community, where through the daily rituals of food, we can begin to address a lot of those systems, including civic action. I think a lot of our neighbors are, and our entire country now is feeling hopelessness when it comes to just our democracy in general. And it's no, we can actually work together in local ways to build coalitions, to improve our lives together and really bring back faith and bring back hope in this country. And I think if we have this upstairs space, which we do have, where we can host those meetings, that it'll be a really big space for health, for financial literacy and civic action. And that's where, the daily rituals of food, which is the basis of our work, grows to be so much more.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you involve, or do you envision involving, if you don't necessarily have them yet, although you've named a couple of these key partnerships that you have, how do you see collaboration being so essential for building food security?
It's everything. So our model is really made for collaboration, that knowing that the grocer and the workforce kitchen have to be two separate premises. They also have to be two separate entities. So it's two separate nonprofits, the Community Grocer, and for us, it's the Walton Avenue Resident Action Committee, which is a coalition of neighbors coming together that actually run that kitchen. So we're handling all the financial burden, all the paperwork, but the actual sublease on Unit B, the kitchen, is a separate organization. So from day one, our work required coalition building. It required collaboration. So we're working, the actual name on the sublease is the Compassion CDC, which is the Church of Christian Compassion's community development arm. And it's them, running that kitchen, who they already do so much work for the community to build that. But it's so much more. It's really knowing that organizationally, we're very small. Like right now, we're a full-time team of 5. And we'll have, of course, when the store is open, we'll grow that to 30, which is a really exciting development coming soon. But that we can't do everything. We can't do the financial literacy. We can't even do the cooking classes. We can't do, all those pieces on civic action and engagement. That's where we need to bring people back. And in the loss of third spaces, which, I think a lot of people feel these days that everyone's on their phones, but where do we actually come together? That we have a place where we can invite other organizations, whether it's JP Morgan to host financial literacy classes, or whether it's Farmer John, our farmer, to talk about growing seeds in your backyard, that we can have a place where through food, we all come together. And that's the only way this works, because we're not trying to hoard all the money, and we're doing this as a nonprofit, knowing that there are no owners, that we're stewards of a collective vision, that we can very easily invite, and one of our seniors on the block who has some young people that will listen to him to just come, have a space, because we know so much work just needs to happen. And so we are always open to collaboration. It's really the only way this works. And are always looking for additional partners who want to support us in this vision. We like to say our mission is to make eating well easier for all, but our vision is to ensure everyone has access to the ingredients they need to live stronger, healthier lives. And of course, there's a little tongue-in-cheek moment there with ingredients, meaning food, but ingredients is also community. It's also a safe space. It's also resources. And that's where collaboration is the core of that work.
Speaking as someone who's grown up in the Philadelphia area, I didn't grow up in Philadelphia, but right outside. I'm just so grateful that you decided to do this, because I think that it's not even just about all the wonderful things that can come from all of these plans you've put in motion and all the things you've just explained. It's also just the pouring back into our community and listening to the community and all of these people who have just not been heard and have not been taken care of for a very long time and have been suffering, honestly, with absolutely no access to quality ingredients, if you will, not just food, all the other things that you're looking to do. So I want to say thank you as someone who is from the Philadelphia area for what you're choosing to do here in our community. But I think it's also very apparent that this is going to be something that will benefit every city across the country. And my hope for you, and that was going to be one of my next questions, is, what is your vision for like the next 5 years with Community Grocer? My hope is that this is all over the United States, but what do you see?
It's definitely one day at a time. I mean, I think my 6 months is to open, get all of the operational questions figured out, because it is just difficult to open a retailer any time of day. But in the next 6 months, build this, finish the build, open our doors to our neighbors, share that we're open to the whole world eventually once we get those operational kinks down. But from there, I think it's how do we package the lessons we've learned over the last 5 years that has come very naturally by listening, by asking questions, by not giving up, right? When the CDFIs go, we don't believe in that purchasing power. We don't believe in the unit economics. So okay, we'll figure it out. That all of those lessons, by just persisting, being able to share that and to put that into a playbook, and whether it's 100 TCGs across the country in 10 years, or even having a playbook to share with other communities.
I was going to say, you need to write a book.
Those lessons learned that we've learned very naturally, to be able to share that. And that's where, right now, organizationally, we don't have the capacity or time or funds to even write that playbook. But hopefully with our opening and the support that maybe comes from this video, we can grow the team to focus on that next larger step, which is how do we share these lessons so that every community can bring intention back into their food system? Because if we were to put intention into every dollar spent on our food, into our health system, into our workforce systems, that we can really create circular systems in our communities that create jobs, that reduce healthcare costs, that improve health outcomes, and build better communities. And if we do that through food, because it's one thing that everyone has to deal with every single day with intention, we could be everywhere. So my goal, next year, open, success, get our financials down. I think within 3 years, I'd love to have 3+ locations across Philly. We're already talking with some organizations in Kensington, some organizations in West Philly. We're in Southwest right now of potential expansion plans. But then eventually to share that with rural America, to share that with the entire country, because this issue we're seeing in Southwest Philly, where our work is and has begun, is everywhere. And if we can share that with everyone, I would love to. And so that's where we're trying to get to. But first, let's deal with our plumbing issues this week.
One step at a time.
Yeah.
That's an incredible vision that I know I personally 100% support, and I hope to see nothing but success for you. But to our listeners, how can those who are listening, who I am certain are going to be inspired by everything they just heard you say, how can they get involved? How can they support you? How can they make that vision become a reality?
Yeah, I'm gonna look at the camera right now. If you want to join our journey to make eating well easier for all, there's a few things you can do right now. It's one, follow us on Instagram. We're at the.community.grocer. Share our page, share our story, share this interview with your friends, with your community. But also on our website, which is thecommunitygrocer.org. There's a very easy donate page the second you hit there. And for us, it's every dollar really matters. That we're trying to have the lowest prices so all of our neighbors can eat better, that can eat well and live better lives. But it's also, like I was talking about, we need organizational support. I'm doing everything from fundraising to overseeing construction to doing podcasts to trying to, get our gas line installed. Like I'm doing it all, me and my partner and our team. But if you want to see this vision really come to life and be successful, it requires investment. And it's a beautiful thing. This is a market-based solution. So I'm not going to ask you for money year after year, but invest in us today so we can build this to be the collective vision for a stronger tomorrow. So go to that website, thecommunitygrocer.org, donate, share a story, and also come out to the store. I mean, I think will be published in December.
Yes.
We'll be open pretty much a month or so after this comes out. So come out to 60th Street, 627 South 60th Street. Either come for a tour. If we're still not open, we host tours every Friday. That information is also on our website and on our Instagram. So go to those sources. But if we're open, come buy food. This isn't just for our neighbors in Southwest. This is going to be delicious foods from local farms that your purchase is supporting economic development for the community. It's supporting health outcomes. It's supporting research. It's supporting alliance and coalition building. So come just buy your groceries from us. That would be a great thing to do. And I promise you, it'll be delicious. It'll be fresh. And maybe you'll get to see me there as well. So come join.
I love it. Thank you so much again for what you're doing. But thank you for giving us all of this incredible insight into the problems that exist, the ways that your organization is working to tackle them. And we wish you nothing but the best as you look to open the doors soon. So thank you for being here, Eli.
Thank you. We'll see you at our opening.
Yes, absolutely.